Bit of background about Ben. Ben was with us 2 years ago, and he did a 90 credit diploma, as you were doing this year, and he did an extended diploma the second year. And in the second year, whilst he was studying his extended diploma, and he'll tell you a little bit more about this, he applied for MBDA for an apprenticeship, and obviously where he is now, in that position at the company. And we've invited Ben and his training manager, which was Andy, to come in. Andy can't be with us this morning, but we're obviously going to speak to Andy a little bit more and get him to come back to obviously enhance the process and enhance the knowledge and the information and everything that you need for apprenticeships in the future. Yeah. So the first thing really is like I said, we've introduced Ben, and we're gonna do it as like an open forum at the end about questions, and obviously I'll prompt you with 1 or 2 questions. But as much as you've got a pathway towards higher education, and you're studying your level 3 this year and you're extended, some of you will be on the extended diploma now, you've got to be looking at not just pathways into university, but pathways into employment and pathways into apprenticeship opportunities as well. And having been, and it's a strange one this really, because I never get this normally, but if you just look round the room now, if we all stick our hands up and say, who worked at British Aerospace? Go on. Gibson, Clive, myself and Ben. So we've got a lot of knowledge about the aerospace industry, and having been there, what a fantastic opportunity it is for all of you. And it's in a way a golden ticket. We're up there with Rolls-Royce, MBDA, British Aerospace, and you've heard there's been a lot of things on the media about the increase in aerospace taking on apprentices in the next few years. I think they're talking about 150, 160 over at Samsbury. And some of you went to visit Samsbury, you went to the Ask Centre last year, but also MBDA are in the process, and that recruitment process will start very soon. So the fantastic opportunities for you, and it is, not quoting Willy Wonka, but it's a golden ticket, because it's a fantastic career progression, and a fantastic opportunity, probably as good as it gets, and we've got it on our doorsteps. And I would hope, after today and the follow-up meeting with Andy, that we start to seriously start looking at those options and looking at those career pathways and those opportunities that you've all got. Okay? So I'm going to ask Ben to do a little bit of an overview of the career options and the opportunities that you've got within the company, and we'll chip in as we go along with Gibson, myself, and we'll end up at the end and talk about the application process, and then we can do a question and answer at the end. Alright, so valuable information, you know, listen with a keen interest. Alright, Ben?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Smart.
So if everyone just looks at the camera, you won't be in it blurring you out, so if you just look and smile.
Yeah, brilliant. So, as Peter said, MBDA is part of BAE Systems. So it's part owned by BAE Systems, Airbus and Leonardo. So 33% each, which means that we've got a massive kind of link with these 3 aerospace companies, which you'll have probably all heard of. MBDA is a missile systems company. So most of the RAF's fighters, stuff like that, like the F-35, Eurofighter, Typhoon, they all use our products. So as opposed to other companies that might make a car or might make a jet, we're making consumables. So there's always going to be a business. It's a long-term company, and we've got about £5 billion order book. So we're back ordered for 3 years, where we've got different countries wanting our products, and we've actually got work guaranteed for the next 3 years, as well as work on top of that. So we at Bolton actually make the missiles. So my job actually hand working on missiles. When the RAF bought the F-35 fighters, I actually helped build one of the first missiles to go on there as an apprentice, which is really a good opportunity. Throughout the apprenticeship, I'll go through the different schemes that we've got, but basically you'll be working across the whole manufacturing process, seeing how things are made step by step, working your way down a production line essentially, so that by the end of your scheme you know the ins and outs of all the products. So I'll go through the 3 schemes that we currently offer. So the first scheme is an operations apprenticeship. So this is a really hands-on scheme. So if you're really into your engineering, into build and stuff, you want to get hands-on and get and actually get down and dirty with it, then this is the scheme for you. Really, it only really requires GCSEs, but if you've got a BTEC in engineering, whether it's just a standard 90 credit diploma or 180 credit diploma, then you're looking at wanting 3 merits, as it says there, for your entry. So this is, I would really recommend it. If you're into engineering and you want to be in a job that you find interesting, as well as being paid and being further qualified, then it's definitely something to consider. On this scheme, you'll be studying a HNC for 2 years and then a HND. And it's all paid for, and you'll be on a salary, as I mentioned. The starting salary is $14,000 a year, and based on your performance, it'll go up $4,000 a year. So after the 4-year scheme, you'll come out on $30,000 a year, with annual bonuses of about £1,800. So it's definitely an incentive. The second scheme is a engineering degree apprenticeship. So it requires 120 UCAS points and a similar kind of entry, but looking at a DDM result. For this, you'll actually be studying a degree rather than a HNC and a HND. The scheme itself, you'll spend the first 2 years on the shop floor with the operations apprentices, hands-on, looking how the missiles are built, looking at all the different processes. But then the second 2 years, you'll be in the engineering office, so that's more support. So you'll have a desk, you'll be looking at that, the actual ins and outs and more problem solving rather than hands-on. And if you're into that kind of thing, you're wanting to get past the actual hands-on and building stuff, but looking at how things work, wanting to see stuff like test engineering, design engineering, manufacturing engineering, then I really look into this kind of thing. This is what I'm studying at the minute. It'll be the same pay scale, but as opposed to the operations apprenticeship where you come out on the shop floor, with this apprenticeship, your career will continue to progress after the scheme. So if you are an impressive individual, after your scheme you've got, the Rolls Royce to really with that one. And the last scheme is a new one to this year, which is a software degree apprenticeship. So it's quite interesting because it requires a BTEC extended diploma, but in any subject. So even if you're doing engineering and you're not fully focused on software development, this is something that you could actually do if you're interested in that. It would require a DDM result as well, and you'd be studying at Bolton doing a software development degree. This is totally new this year, so there's no one currently in MBDA on this scheme. But as I say, if this is something that you'd be interested in and wanting to look into the kind of software development industry within defence, then I'd definitely look into that. So yeah, those are our 3 schemes. I'll go through the application process quickly. So if you're interested in one of these 3 schemes, you need to go to the mbdacareers.co.uk site. Once you're on here, you can go to job search and apply. And the best way to do it is in keywords, just search apprenticeship. Now the thing to note is we've got some different apprenticeships, but they're spread out across the whole country. So our main site is actually in Stevenage near London. So that's where all the business kind of side of things takes place, all the design kind of things. So if you're wanting to do that, you can apply for it. You can look at commuting or moving down there. It's totally up to you. But in terms of Bolton apprenticeships, you can see the location on the right-hand side. So we've got the operations apprenticeship, as I mentioned. We've got the engineering degree apprenticeship, and we've got the software degree apprenticeship. So if I go on the engineering degree apprenticeship, it'll give us an overview of the scheme in terms of what kind of things you'll be looking at. So operations, missile engineering, circuit card assembly, test engineering, all this kind of thing. Talks about your benefits, and then your salary at the bottom here, just as it explained. Now once you've found the one that you'd actually want to apply for, just go and apply now. And it'll give you a form to fill in. Now, for my year, we took on 9 apprentices, but for those 9 slots, 2,000 people applied. So you're looking at 200 people per position, which means that you've really got to look at how you can stand out. So obviously the obvious thing is trying to achieve those top grades and pushing yourself a little bit further than what's expected of you. When I was here, I was quite committed in terms of I wanted the top grades, and I managed to get a triple distinction star in the end. It wasn't easy, but it was definitely worth the extra graft. But that's just the start of it. I think one of the key things from my application and my interview process was the fact that I had work experience. So I worked a Saturday job at Morrison's for 3 years, and at the time it was nothing to do with engineering, didn't like it, it was just to get a bit of cash. But on my CV it showed that I held a job for 3 years, I was on time every week, never missed a shift. So for them that was probably more valuable than having the good grades. And on top of that, I think you guys are doing a project as part of your qualifications as a unit. If you are, make sure you do a really nice portfolio that you could actually bring. So put some extra effort into that and see it as more of a long-term investment rather than just getting that grade that you're looking for. Because this is something that any employer really values, that you can have a target as your project, but you can like show how you come up with ideas, put it all down as in an engineering format. So yeah, that's everything on my part.
Any questions? Any questions initially? Because I'm going to ask Ben a question, which is really, can you talk us through what happened? You went for the interview, you're obviously successful, you got your grades. What was the first year like? What did you do?
Yeah, so the first year, the first 3 months were at a place called Alliance Learning, which is an external facility, which is basically teaching you all the standard basic stuff about engineering, so whether that's like welding, turning, milling, all the kind of basics that as an engineer apprentice you kind of expected to know. So that was fully external. Then we came into the company, and that would be about December, January time, and from there, basically how it works. As I mentioned, you work your way down the shop floor, seeing all the different aspects, but it's actually built upon different 3-month placements. So you'll get a kind of schedule for your whole apprenticeship, and you'll see all the different blocks of placements that you'll be on. And so you change every 3 months. So I don't know how many placements I've done now working there 2 years, but I've seen a fair bit. But there's so much more for me to
So
see.
you get to experience all the different areas.
Yeah, everything, yeah.
And you did, so the first 12 months was off the job. So
First 3 months was off
3
the
months
job,
was off the job at Alliance Learning.
Yeah.
We know where Alliance Learning is, though it's up in Horwich. So it's only 2 or 3 miles, so that's based in the region. That's with MBDA. So if you apply for an apprenticeship through MBDA, then you would be going to Alliance Learning for 3 months. And alongside that, were you studying for your degree at that point?
Yeah, so it's day release.
And you're studying your degree where?
At Wigan College.
So again, the localities, you know, within 5, 6, 7 miles.
But if you're looking at doing the degree, it'll be at Bolton.
Yeah.
So for my year, there wasn't a degree option, so I'm doing HNC and HND at Wigan.
Yeah.
But that would be more local if that's something you can look into.
Yeah. Good. And you're at the point now. You've been there how long?
So I've been there 2 years now.
2 years. So you're now on the shop floor.
Yeah, so I've got 5 months left of being on the shop floor.
Yeah.
And because I'm an engineering apprentice, I'll be going into the office doing more engineering support.
And you spoke about salaries, just to give you an idea. When we talked about the operationals apprentice, that they do a 4-year apprenticeship and they come out on 30,000. It'll be similar for Ben, but then it's where you can go from there with your degree apprenticeship, because that's going to give you access to higher paid and obviously remuneration, anything on that.
Yeah.
So leading up to what roughly engineers are they?
The salary grading is different levels.
Yeah.
So as an engineer, so if you did the engineering apprenticeship, you come out as a level 2, which is about 30,000. Immediately, because you'll have had 4 years experience and you'll have a H&D, you meet all the company's criteria for a level 3. So within a month, they promote you to level 3, so you go up to 32,000 within a month. Which if you're on the shop floor, that wouldn't happen. Yeah. So within the first month of coming out as an engineer, you already get $2 grand pay rise, which is good. Yeah. After that, you'll have also completed all the criteria for a level 4, except for you need another year's experience. So after that year's experience, you're looking at 38 grand. So within a year, you'll have gone up 8 grand essentially.
What would you be then?
What's that, sorry?
How old would you be when you'll be earning 38 grand?
Well, if you went at 18, so straight after college, you'd be 23 on 38 grand with a 2 grand bonus a year.
Okay.
Well, that's the sort of, that to me is a massive incentive. When you look at, you go to university and saying that's an option, a pathway, but you'd leave here at what, 18, 19, you'd be 22, you'd be coming out of university, but you wouldn't have had your foot on that ladder really for that career progress, and you'd be guaranteed that sort of, obviously salary at that stage. And leading from, when you said what was it, you said 20?
23.
23, 24, 38,000, but that again is the start, because as you get to become senior
Yeah.
personnel in the company, that will rise and rise and rise, won't it?
Yeah.
So you can see the hard work and the endeavour, and I'm not embarrassed, but like you said, you got a triple D star grade at the end, and it really is worth that effort. I know Gibson, Clive, everybody pushes you and talks about assessments and talks about value added, but that's the reason, because if you're coming out at the top, you're going to be creamed off there, and you're going to be in that selection position that you can get these high profile jobs and these high profile apprenticeships. Any questions?
What was the first apprenticeship you showed us?
So the first one is called an operations apprenticeship. So throughout the scheme, as I mentioned, it's the same kind of salary, and that's just really hands-on. So the way it works is you essentially follow an instruction manual for your job, and you're working through it step by step, and it's pretty fun, to be honest. Like, that's the kind of stuff you do on your different placements. And yeah, so that's basically all of it. So I'll just quickly go through that. So you've been going through missile assembly, so whether that's just a circuit board or going through to the actual final build, missile testing, calibration maintenance, circuit board printing, or missile integration. So that's basically putting all the pieces together essentially.
You know the one you're doing?
Yeah.
What was that one called?
So the one I'm doing is it's now called the Engineering Degree Apprenticeship, but when I joined it wasn't a degree, unfortunately. So you do 2 years of the same thing, but then you'd be looking more into materials, drawings, future development, all this kind of thing where it's more problem solving. So if you wanted to do more hands-on, enjoy building stuff with your hands, follow the instruction manual essentially, and see the end product, operations is perfect. Whereas if you'd like to look behind it and how does this work? Why is this designed this way? Then I'd definitely look into engineering and try and push yourself for those top grades.
You know, the process you're going through as well, to me, that is an absolute no-brainer, because you're not getting £9,000 a day for the next 3 years. Your education's paid for you. You're getting a salary. You're earning while you learn, as the corny saying is. But it is when you look at all the indicators, it's a no-brainer, that really.
And what I'll mention on that as well is if you did the engineering degree apprenticeship, but at the end you wanted to be an operator, you can actually choose to do that. So you've given yourself the opportunity to go into engineering, but if you thought, really like those placements, really like actually hands-on kind of things, then you could actually choose to be an operator at the end of it. Whereas if you did operations, you wouldn't have the option of being an engineer at the end of it. So it's worth striving for that and pushing yourself for that, and then potentially choosing to be an operator afterwards, rather than going for the lower grades, being an operator, but then not having that opportunity to progress.
Will you have the opportunity to do your degree at the end? To do
Yeah,
the top,
so
yeah?
obviously
If you did the HNC,
from now it's a degree, but at the end of it I'll have the opportunity of doing a business
you'll apply
case.
for that food.
Yeah, no fund it.
What are your working conditions like?
Oh, brilliant.
What's your general start time, finish, holidays?
Yeah, so the
Sick day.
typical start, the typical shift is 7 till 3:30, Monday to Thursday, and then 7 till 12 on a Friday. So you finish at dinner time. But as an apprentice and as an engineer, you're on flexi time. So as long as you're in by 9:30 and leave by 3:30, you can kind of do your own hours, build up a bit of flexi, have a day off that's not out your holidays, or work a shorter shift if you need to. So it's really, really good in that aspect.
What about the environment? Is it clean, noisy,
Brand new
dirty?
facility, totally dust free. They're really strict on, it's called FOD, so foreign object debris or damage. So they're cleaning all the time. There's not a speck of dust on any of the desks on the shop floor, which is really uncommon in engineering. So state of the art, they've basically just splashed cash on this facility. It's brilliant.
What more about the rules? You know, like about punctuality and.
Yeah, so as I said, as long as you're in for the core hours,
Mhm.
so if you're past 9:30, they kind of make a note of it,
Mhm.
but it's quite hard to be that late every day.
But if you are late, what happens?
There'll probably be, you probably get a couple of warnings, and I guess it's that whole kind of thing of potential dismissal if you kept being late.
So punctuality is very important.
Yeah.
What
So
about-
7's an early start, but once you get into the routine of it.
What if you do extra hours? Does that
So-
give you a holiday or?
Yeah, so with flexi time, if you did extra hours, build up a flexi balance. I think the holiday allowance is 25 days a year, but then you're also allowed 15 flexi days a year. So if you work the hours, you can take extra days off on top of that. If you, as an apprentice, you don't get that much overtime unless it's something that's been pre-planned. So if I was doing this after 7 o'clock, I'd get overtime for it. But there's not that. But as an operator, you can work Saturdays for time and a half. You can work extra time. So some of the guys on the shop floor, their salary is 30,000, but they're earning 40,000 from doing the overtime alone. Sometimes on bank holidays, they pay time and a half plus 100 quid to do it. So it's really good money. Yeah, really good.
Is there any heavy lifting or dangerous work?
No, nothing.
So the missiles aren't armed there, are they?
Yeah, they are, but
They
they've
are
got
on?
these IMAS cranes that lift it all. So basically, you're not doing any heavy lifting or anything. It's pretty easy.
Good. And it's, what's that?
Got one more there. You know, like you said, the world's your oyster.
Yeah.
Do you mean within that business or as like engineering?
Yeah, so within that business, but if you complete an apprenticeship with MBDA and you've got that in your CV, you can essentially go anywhere. If you wanted to go to BAE, there's a really easy transition between. Like, you wouldn't have to do the whole application phase and interview because it's a partner company. You could transition. So a lot of the managers and stuff like that the way they've progressed is from going company to company, almost step laddering like that. So yeah, but if you've got that in your CV as an engineer at MBDA or operations at MBDA, then it's a really good thing to have.
It sounds a bit like what I said. That's exactly the same. It is the golden ticket and it's on your CV. And the fact that you've served an apprenticeship and you've gone through that rigorous structure is so important to future employers. Not saying that you will ever want to go out of that BA Systems umbrella, but if you did, you're going to be a potential candidate all the time for a top job. Really, it's up there with Rolls Royce and the top training companies and the top employers in the country. What was really interesting, and Gibson was mentioned the point, is about the employability skill and about punctuality and attendance. As you know, there's 200 people in for each job, so you really have to sell that CV. And I know you mentioned it before, Ben, about the fact that you've had a job, you've held the job down, you've been punctual, you've had it for 3 years, you've got a good track record. It's all those elements, and it is. The employer these days are looking for good qualifications, but they're also looking for that reliable person who's going to be on time, who's going to be in attendance, who's going to be reliable, who's going to be willing to go the extra mile with all the tasks that you do. And sometimes, I know we've had students in the past go on work experience, and they've found that some of the tasks are a bit menial and they don't feel the relevance of them. But it's about showing your potential, even doing the simplest of tasks, and keeping on task and being enthusiastic and on time and completing the task. And that's where we all start. I started in the same position as Ben, as did Gibson, as did Clyde, and it's working your way through that system, getting your foot on the ladder, getting that opportunity and really seizing it and grasping it and moving forward with it. And you can, by the discussion we've just had for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, you can really see the benefits compared to the option of going to university, because of the salaries and the the actual guaranteed employment at the end of it, as long as you complete everything that's asked of you within that process. Anything else?
How often do these places come up?
Is in the application
Yeah.
every year. So for an apprenticeship, it's every year as an intake.
I was going to say, you've got the details on there, haven't you?
Yeah,
When does the window close?
I'm not sure when it actually closes. Andy would have known more
I
about
think
that.
it's around about March, not
Yeah, normally.
February. Yeah. February.
I think it normally opens in November and then closes in March. But yeah, so I think there's a slightly bigger intake this year. I think they're looking at 12, but obviously, as I say, it'll probably be similar. Application size is like about 2,000 people. So definitely, obviously, ask your tutors about your CVs as well. Let them help you because they know what a good CV should look like. Because sometimes you'll do a CV in front of you, do it in your head, and you think, oh, that's great. And then someone will think, oh, what about this? Or don't put that in there, it doesn't sound good. So once you've done your CV, help them juice it up a little bit and make it look really shiny.
Did you say there was an exemplar on there about this?
No,
I know you were
I just had the application page.
Yeah.
So obviously there's this kind of basic test information.
Yeah.
I think yeah, so obviously you see on their work experience as a whole section.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to have something on there,
Yeah.
even if it's just for a few months while you're doing the application.
And you can't stress the importance of that application, because if you think there's so many, I'd get involved in application processes when we employ new staff, and the first thing they want to see and the first impression you can make is that application form. And if they're sifting through 200 per applicant, basically, it's a quick process. If that looks good, I've read that, that's detail, that's standing out on the page. And I'm going to keep that one at one side and we'll revisit that. That one's just going straight from the out tray straight away. So you've got to really, really sell yourself at that point.
You can't lie on that one because it's high security. It will be scrutinised. If you get to the last few, it'll be scrutinised, the last thing. Everything. I know when I was employed, I had Irish relatives, and at the time it was the Northern Ireland thing, so it was scrutinised deeply.
UK and US background check as well, stuff like that. So,
But you were coming into it now at the right time, because there has been a lull in manufacturing, a lull in obviously the aerospace industry over the past few years. But as you can see with the media news at present, these numbers that they're taking on over at Preston, at Samsborough, MBDA, you can see lifting their numbers as well. So there are some fantastic opportunities, and I would really seriously consider taking those, and you'll get as much support as we can give you with regards from your tutors. We're going to follow this meeting today, but we're going to ask Andy to come back in on the 4th of Feb. And what will be interesting on that as well, Ben, software one, because I'll get the IT students in. Because me and Nicky were talking about that earlier on, about the IT students. But having now got that degree programme, that software engineer, it'll be really interesting for the computing students as well. And again, by all means, we'll invite you and take that opportunity to come and listen a little bit more. Is Andy what is Andy, the trainer?
So I think he's classed as the Early Careers Programme Recruiting Officer.
Yeah.
So he does stuff like going into schools, going to colleges to try and promote it.
There are some of your classmates who when you were here are actually doing the same course now as Ben's doing at Wigan, doing the HND programme. But again, Ben's in employment, he's being paid for it, where the HND students are working full-time and probably working part-time alongside that. But it's the same level. The same level of progress, because they didn't go into the career options and they're looking for the progression into higher education and then probably into the degree top up at the end, as Ben will be doing. But the main thing is there's that progression from when you leave university. You have got a job, you are already in the process, and you're in that career pathway within your employment. Is that okay? Everybody all right for that? Thank you very much,
Nice,
Ben.
all right.
Absolutely fantastic.